Hi guys. This week we're going to be talking about how to receive notes. So like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell. I've remembered to do it up front for once. It's a surprise for me. I normally stick it on the end. But thanks for everyone who's been doing that. Gino Promo. Gino Primo. I butchered your name last time. Sorry. Thanks for your comment. It was really good. So let's get talking. How to receive notes and what notes mean. People say look at the note under the note. A note is a written down, spoken version of a person's emotional reaction to your story. I would like to think it is. I don't really listen to those notes where people are what I call marking it. They've got this standard where they go, oh, we've got to have one of those. Oh, we didn't have one of those. I'd like one of those added in. It's not a school assignment. A screenplay is a piece of art. Personally, if someone comes to me with one of those notes, and I have had one of those notes, where somebody wrote on a page, I would expect a B story to start on this page. They didn't say why. Whatever. That was a bit of an eye roll for me. But so I looked at it and thought, okay, let's think of why they might have said that. There's two reasons. They could just be one of those people that say, here's my beat sheet. I'm going to mark it. There we go. Oh yeah, one of those, two of those, three of those, 4 bags full. Fantastic. Or it could have been that they were saying, the story's beginning to feel a bit same. So normally you'd get a B story here to break up that sameness, which is how I took it. So what did I do? I looked at the story and I was doing a lot of setup. So I thought I'd do what Gottlieb did for Jaws. I was going to move the villain up front. That wasn't the protagonist. Normally you put your hero up front in your introductory scene, a lot of people, and then people say the first scene should reflect the last scene and all those sorts of things. So I didn't put the hero up front. I did the Jaws. I showed the shark first, then ignored the shark for the next 25, 30 pages. So I put a scene showing the antagonist being evil at the front. This is for the screenplay The Valley. I put the character of Don up front, doing a Don thing. Then I looked at the screenplay and said, okay, so the next 11 pages, a lot of setup. It's about the family being in the city and so forth. Let's get rid of that and move them straight to being on the road, on their road trip. So they're on their road trip now. So I took 11 pages out. So we start with Don doing something Don-like, and then we go straight to the family in their first struggle, which was their car breaking down. So it jumps you from the shark to what you know is going to be the impending victim. It removed the 11 pages, which now would have meant the B story would be starting on page 30-something, which it didn't. So that's what I did there. I took the setup as being too same for them. So I used, like I said, the Jaws approach. So think of it that way. The note under the note. What is a person feeling when they give you a note? That person was feeling that my intro was dragging. We have done a table read of the companies based in the UK, some very, very talented UK actors. And I was talking to them, I said, I removed 11 pages. One of the actors went, I would have loved to have seen him. What would have given me some background for the character? So that would have had some use for someone, but it didn't serve the story. And as I always say, everything should really serve the story. Another note I was given, someone read a screenplay and told me it was boring. They said, it's just boring. And they gave me a note. Stick a fight scene in it. Stick something. Well, I didn't. Because if you looked at the note under the note, and the reason a lot of things will feel boring, if you're like me, I tend to write a lot of claustrophobic, single location, small number of cast, that sort of stuff. So there isn't a lot, you don't have any establishing shots when you're writing a single location stuff. So think of that. If you've got one of those stories which is happening in many places, you'll always have in the first instance, an establishing shot. So we're going to go from Sydney to New York. We'll have an establishing shot of New York, skyline, Statue of Liberty, something like that. And then we'll normally go to a locality medium shot, like the person walking past Katz's Deli if they live near Katz's Deli, or the neighbourhood, or the interior of the building with a shot out through the window, that sort of stuff, the establishments. You don't get those when you're in a single location. You establish the location and you're there. And those establishing shots, all those scene headings, those little breaks, give a person a moment to get the story they've got and commit that to memory and get ready for the next bit, the next sequence, the next scene. It gives them a break so they're not looking at the same thing all the time. Over here, in Australia, we have a saying for people that go on holidays: stop, revive, survive. So every 2 hours, you stop, you get out of your car, you walk around, you have a coffee, you do whatever you do, get back in the car and drive, because we like driving. Very soon I'll be driving down to Melbourne to see my son. That's 10 hours. Then across to Adelaide, it's another 6. See some friends. We'll drive back to Sydney, another 10, 12. We do 10, 12-hour drives at a time. Go to Queensland, that's 14 hours. And we don't mind. It's holidays for an Australian. You get in your car and you drive. But we've got that saying, stop, revive, survive. Every 2 hours, pull over, let the dogs out of the car, go for a walk, get back in the car, keep going. Because a lot of the same things in the road go past you at the same pace on a highway all the time. Put you to sleep. You need something to break it. You need a little attention break, and changing location is great. But if you write limited locations or single location dramas, you're stuck. You don't have that. So you need to break the pace. And that's when this person said, it's boring. So I looked at the script and looked for what would make it boring. What was I doing wrong? What was not the note under the note, but what was the meaning behind his boredom? What was making him feel bored? And what it was is that I wasn't giving the information quick enough. I was dragging it out a little bit. I was giving a lot of the same sort of information along this one storyline. There was a second location. In the movie, his wife had gone to visit someone. So that was going to be another single location, which meant the reason you write limited location stories is for budget. If you don't have to set up and move, don't have to unpack, don't have to get permits, don't have to get moving a set, or even if it's a small set where you're a bit run and gun, where you've only got like your cameraman and a sound guy, and your actors and makeup or someone like that, and a director's assistant. So you've got 7 or 8 people, you've got to move. That still comes, set up, have a table for food, or location, have a bit of power, have recharging for your cameras, because cameras have batteries. Maybe you got to recharge it. You got your little handhelds, whatever you got to do. So that's the stuff you got to pack up and move. So only at the most I'll have 2 locations, say. So then I said, okay, let's drop some of that second storyline in earlier, and we'll do little cuts across to the second location, just 1 page, 1 or 2 pages. So you could film all your primaries here in location 1, and then go film all your secondaries on another week there. So that second location was going to exist, but I moved it in closer to the start, that I could cut back and forth. I also brought one of the conflicts between the 2 characters a bit in earlier as well. So then we weren't going along the one storyline. We were jumping out between the 2 different conflicts and goals they moved along. And then the third thing that came into those 2 storylines happening simultaneously was a second location. So that broke up the boredom. I didn't change the story. I didn't suddenly put a car chase in. I didn't suddenly have someone turn up and they were attacked. I didn't have a stabbing or any big stunt work. I just rearranged what I had to change the pace, to remove the boredom. So when you get a note, you've got to think why the person is saying it. Because like I said before, it's the emotions. I had another story that go out, and the person that read it was a producer, and just said to me, I don't care. I've read the script, I just don't care. And so it took a little bit to drag that out of that person. I said, well, you don't care about the story, you don't care about the characters, you don't care about... What don't you care about? Well, he said, it's a story, it's not a bad story, but there's not a single person in there that I want to see. I don't care what happens to them. I don't care about the outcome of the story. I don't care if that story exists. I don't care if that movie ever gets made. So what I need to do, so I just started too late, and that's, you should start as late as possible and finish as soon as possible with scenes, with stories and everything. I needed to not so much make this person warm and fuzzy or make the character likeable or give them a background, because I'm still not a big fan of the likeable character. I think you've got to relate. So I just had to give the world a little bit of background in the context of that character. Then suddenly you could understand the character. And when you saw their interactions to the people, and this is for Amy, another one of my screenplays, suddenly when you could see the interactions between the people, you could understand Amy. You could understand where she was coming from. You understood her struggles. She has one great line in that I'm really quite proud of. That says, the world wants me to be less than what I am and be happy about that. And that line sums up Amy. But we had to get that in earlier. So it gave you context of the person. Because, you know, a single mum drug dealer probably isn't the most sympathetic character in the world. But when you understood why she was doing it, because in her situation, it was how she was going to prove to herself that she was more than what the world thought she was. Because she wasn't willing to be less than what she was in the face of the world and be happy about not being what she could truly be. So that gave that a different context. So when you take a note, also, I know it's really hard. You've spent a year working on something and someone says, oh, it's boring. I don't care. Or, you know, oh, you should put something right here. That's what you need. It's really, really tempting to ignore them, get angry, get offended because you've put so much work into it. You want them to love it. And you want them to love it as much as you do. Well, they won't. And a lot of people feel they have to have input. I used to work with a guy called Joe. You give him something, no matter what it was, a report, a memo, anything, a spreadsheet. The first thing you do is pick a red pen up. And I said to him once, we were close, I said, put that down, I'm going to break your fingers. I said, you don't even know if there's a mistake on that page. And the first thing you've done is pick up a red pen. We were close. He went, fair enough. Put it down and started reading. He went, ha! And up the red pen, and then he was happy he was making mistakes. Joe was the sort of person that wanted to have input. That's what he wanted. He got value by adding to. He was adding value. He didn't understand the impact that no matter what you gave him, it was never good enough. So, but don't be worried about that. You're giving it to somebody. They may want to have an impact. If they're a director, they'll definitely want to have an impact. Actors want to have an impact. Producers will definitely want to have an impact. It's their money, right? And when they buy it off you, it's their script. So don't be insulted by notes. I'm not a big fan of going to readers, as you know. I trust myself to tell my story. I don't want to become a ghostwriter for a whole lot of note-giving paid services. So I trust myself. If you get notes back from people, and some people say, well, these notes are so contradictory, ignore them. If they don't make sense to you, ignore them. But try to look at the reason why they may have said them. If they're just marking your work, like, oh, you went for 15 pages without having a somersaulting chipmunk, ignore that. If it's working for your story, best way to learn, read lots of scripts. So, but look at why the person has emotionally said what they've said. I've given you 3 examples of real life things that have happened to me. It's boring comment. Stick a B story in because there's too much of the same stuff. I don't care about these people. These would normally knock someone off their feet. But if you look at why people have said them, it's much, much easier to make the changes. Make incremental changes. Don't throw things out and make wholesale changes. Make a little change, sit back. Have I achieved what I want? Have I done the emotional resonance that I needed? That's it, guys. Thanks again. All that stuff. And until next time, keep writing. Bye, guys.